I could be feeling kind of sick, but I turn that on, boy, and I could just feel myself just start to go. So I love that little song. I hope you do too. Hi, welcome back to the Pink and Woman's Mensch podcast. I'm Cheryl. I appreciate you. You who drop by, who listen in. Let me tell you, when I get rich, you're going to be rich too. You may think I'm just talking, but baby, I am like the Lord. I recompense them who have lost time and spent it with me. So today we're talking about the last of that 3-part series that I named After Dark. I thought it was a suitable name to give it because I brought 3 subject matters to this space. And man, I think them that listened, them that participated, and truly me appreciate it. It was informative. We had fun with it, I truly believe, because at first what we discussed was the sexual position of the woman on top. We didn't look at that from just the lustful point of view and things like that, but we talked about the health concerning men and women. We talked about how it once was prohibited. All these different things we brought out regarding it. Last week, wow, the listening audience adds so much layer to what I brought about the side chick. We didn't bash, we didn't judge, we just wanted to examine the mindset of women who live such as that. And we all came to a hearty agreement. It is her worth. If her worth was at a higher level, she would want her own versus sharing what belongs to someone else. All right. So we spoke about that. And so today, the last of the series, we're talking about pheromones. Pheromones. So now let me say to you, because you so far have learned that I always try to add a little antidote into whatever we're talking about. But I'm very limited here, but I do have 2 pieces that I've pulled out of my experience. And so we'll see what we can do with that. So up front, I want to put the questions in the chat because my faithful girlfriend of many years, she's going to help me out because listen, this is the 3rd time. My chat will not work. I copy what I want to say, but when I hit paste, it won't go in there. So question first that we're going to put into the chat, thank you Sheila in advance, is do you believe in love at first sight? Do you believe in love at first sight? I'm not asking you like share some. Do you believe in love? Life after love. That's what she was singing about. No, I'm asking you, do you believe in love at first sight? That's one question that we're going to address. The other question that I would like to go into the chat is, have you ever felt an overwhelming attraction to somebody immediately? All right. Have you ever felt an overwhelming attraction to someone immediately? Okay. So that's something that my friend is going to put there as well. The next question, if so, what do you think the cause of that reaction was? If you have experienced feeling overwhelmed, an attraction for someone, what do you think the cause of it was? Okay. So now let's go. Pheromones. Okay. We always got to get a working definition, right? Let me tell you, I got a little age on me, but I never really sat and listened to anyone regarding this study. Oh yeah, do I know about where they say, people can sense fear on you? Can a man smell that a woman is interested? Yeah, I've heard all these things, but the actual term, I must admit, it has been over recent years that I'm familiar with this phrasing. Well, the definition: a chemical substance that's within the body, whether it is a person or an animal. They also say for us, it really lies underneath the skin, right? So where animals like dogs, when they pee, it's in their urine and things like that. But supposedly, they say for the human, it lays underneath the skin. All right. So, um, them that are listening thus far with me, I'm sure going to be interested in what you say about this, because you're going to educate me, because I knew a little bit before I researched, and then what I've come with is based on my research. All right. So at the end of the day, pheromones are hidden communication, right? You do not have to speak your attraction to somebody. It sends signals from one individual to another. When I was reading that, I thought to myself, my grandmother, she used to make me laugh, because if she was looking for something and she asked you, did you see it? And you say no. And then you get up to help her to find it and you're sitting on it. She would say, is your after end dead? So I'm wondering, is my pheromones dead, right? Because it says it sends a signal. So what could my signal be sending? All right. So the bottom line is, that's what it is. It's a chemical substance within the body. Animals have it, and so do we. It sends signals from one individual to another. I don't think we're going to be on here long today, because, hey, that's just that simple. But now, here's the thing. They sell perfume that's called the same thing. So now, if you have a personal pheromone, how in the heck is perfume something we should use? Well, I read and it said it enhances yours. But the bottom line is, why would I want them to enhance mine? I want to go on my natural scent. So the research said, listen, if you want to know the strength of your pheromone, do not take a shower. Do not wear perfume or cologne for a while, for at least a month. And oh my God, I'm like, I don't think I want to know what mine might be, because that's just foolishness in my way of thinking. So now here's my first antidote, my little story I can say to it. When I was married, sometimes I think to myself, it's just a shame we couldn't make it, because we used to joke together, very comical, very silly together. Our love life did not suffer or anything. And sometimes I think back on things that were said that I thought was very interesting. Well, okay, of course, we as a couple had our problems, so we had to split ways, but yet you can learn something from everyone. So my ex-husband, he didn't use this word, but I'll tell you something he said before that no other man ever said to me. All right. No other man, just the husband that I had. One day he says to me, Cheryl, it's no wonder that we're husband and wife. He says, because, when the Bible says that Adam saw Eve and he realized she is the rib of his, right? The rib of his. He says to me, Cheryl, you smell like me. What? So even though he didn't use this word, I was married to a man that had an awareness that my natural smell like his. So, that's unique within itself. So that's the antidote I would give with that. Now, let me speak of another little antidote before I open up this mic, because like I said, the conversation is really a short one. All right. There been a research, a study that was done in 2021. And when I read up on it, I thought it was interesting too. The first thing they told you is that it is debatable about human pheromones. And they said it's debatable because the human sexual behavior is complex. But yet, the same people who did this study in Nashville with 53 men, they split up the room, and this is what they found out. They put the must of gay men before men, and they put the must of women before another group of men. And what they learned was the straight guys was attracted to the must that was the women, but they don't know what they were smelling, right? And gay guys that was in both groups was attracted to the must of gay guys. So even though they said that the jury is still out whether or not if we humans have a hidden language, I think their research told them differently. So that happened in Nashville, and that was in 2021. Here's my last antidote, and then please let me hear from my faithful brother Barack. You know, we have had a president, one black president so far, and his name was Barack, right? And everybody realized how and why we put him in office. But who would have known I would meet another one named Barack? And you're going to love the tone of his voice. You're going to love his thought processes. They are provoking. So here's my last antidote. I saw a boyfriend that I had not seen in 40 years. All right, hadn't seen him, sight nor sound. But when I saw him in 40 years and we went to hug each other, I recognized his scent right off the bat. That I could say to him, listen, I forgot how you smell. So it wasn't his cologne, it was him. So a lot of things that goes on, hey, listen, we may not be privy to what we're experiencing, but I was glad to learn about this word. I was glad to do the study to bring it here as our last topic of conversation today for After Dark. And so, Barack, I'm going to be opening your mic. Sheila is very knowledgeable in many subject matters herself. Her being a married woman, her being busy taking care of her home life and everything, lots of times she can't speak to us. So maybe she'll be able to, and maybe she won't. Somebody's hand is raised, it's showing me, and I've opened every mic, so I don't have a clue what that would be about. Barack, open your mic. How are you today?
Hey, Cheryl, I'm fine.
Hey, Barack, I am not blowing smoke. I really love the tone of your voice.
Thank you.
I love your mindset. Me and you don't always agree, but I just love how you arrive at whatever you arrive at.
Right, you know it. You
Okay.
know it.
So let me first say to you, what do you know about this subject matter? Pheromones.
This is a subject that I'm still trying to figure out myself. But as far as the questions that you've uh, given already,
Mm-hmm.
I'm prepared to give an answer to those questions.
Oh, beautiful. You see what I mean, listening audience? He's so intelligent. I love myself an intelligent man, but he's a baby, so I can't marry him. He is my little brother. So let's go. Barack,
Okay.
first
Yes.
question. Do you believe in love at first sight?
So, in the beginning, in my younger days, I probably did. Now, I think that it's important to get to know somebody.
Okay. All
I,
right.
I do think though that sometimes you can have like this weird connection where your body send signals and it just does something.
Mm-hmm. Well, don't go too fast. Let's stay at question one. Okay. So you said at one time in your life you did believe in love at first sight.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Sheila, are you able to add into this conversation? I would love to get your response to that.
Hello.
Hello, beautiful. Sheila, what about you?
Hi.
Hi, honey. What about you?
Um,
You believe in love at first sight?
I don't know if I believe in love at first sight. I don't think I've ever had a belief in love like that. Can I like and admire someone at first sight? Yeah. But the love part, I don't think so. I don't think that's ever happened to me. It might have happened for them because I did have somebody say when they saw me walk into the classroom, they told all their friends they were going to marry me, and we lasted for 20 years but never got married. We could never get that right. So for him, maybe it's for him, but for me, no. I've never experienced that.
All right. Well, both of you bring good food for thought. Me, myself, I do not believe in love at first sight. Never have I, never will I. And like you just said, it's possible for somebody, yeah. And Barack had one understanding that grew into another. But I've never believed in love at first sight. But I do think sometimes because what you stand on you may lost an opportunity. So, for example, a grammar school boy used to tell me he loved me. Well, I was like, boy, please, we are children, okay? But we grew up, got past grammar school. He still was professing that. I dated him till I felt like I went that route too. But over time, it just drifted away, the two people. But he had that strong sense forever. And when I speak to him, he still think like that. Not love like, I want to marry you. No, he have gone on with his life, but he feels like I was the first as a grammar school kid. And I still cannot wrap my head around that. So I do not believe in it. Barack, let's go back because you were trying to get ahead of what I'm talking about. But now you're right on time. Have you ever felt an immediate attraction to someone?
Um, yes.
All right. And when you did, what do you think caused the reaction, especially now that you can look back at it in retrospect?
I believe it was what was going on internally inside of me. Maybe like my heart, communicating with my brain and, the science of things.
Hmm. Now, let me ask you something. Were you at the age of puberty?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
So we know why that is, okay?
Right. Right.
Yeah, okay, sounds good. Let's go to Sheila. Sheila, please still be able to talk to us. Don't be busy now. Have you ever felt an immediate attraction to someone, Sheila?
Of course I have. Yes.
Okay, and what do you think was the cause for this reaction?
It was more of their sex appeal, how they moved, how they laughed, how they dressed. It was just yeah. It wasn't a love thing. It was just more of a yeah. Oh wow. You know
So sound like lust to me. All right.
exactly what it was.
See, you guys, I gotta speak for you all. Make it plain. For me, I have experienced this too. And I still didn't know that word, but let me explain the effects of what happened, which still to this day I think is weird, but maybe it was pheromones. But anyway, when I was in college, we were having a party. We were helping this fraternity. And so me and some other young ladies was at the guy's house helping him to get it together. for me, I'm shy until you meet me or I feel a certain sense about you. All right. So anyway, we're helping to clean up, and in the meantime, his fraternity from another school started filing into his apartment. I mean, one guy after another. So I was in the living room, able to see them come through the door, each of them, because I was cleaning the albums, right? So I'm sitting there cleaning the albums, and each guy come in, and they do their little fraternity, shaking hands, and and they say hey to me, and keep going. And like I said, me being kind of shy, I just said hi. I didn't show much expression. This one comes in. It's not like he was so handsome or tall or anything. I tell you, my insides turned to jelly. I mean, oh my God, right on sight. It was immediate. And all that weekend, I mean, I was so geeked. He was not geeked about me. He was, enjoying himself on our campus. But I mean, I just couldn't keep my eyes off him to the very degree that I did something that was out of character only once ever in life. And I did this. When he went back to his school, I wrote him. Oh my God. I learned never come out of character. But I mean, there was just something about when he came in the room. Just was weird. Barack, what do you think I was going through? And wait a minute. And before you answer, Barack, he was like maybe the seventh guy that came through the door. It's so many came in before him. It's like, what's up with this one? Go ahead.
Wow, I don't know what to think. Yeah, I'm clueless on this one, but it's definitely a funny story.
Yeah, and wait a minute, it gets funnier, Barack, because I wrote this letter to him when he went away when he went back to his campus. He never wrote me another letter. Right? I mean, he didn't reply. Well, okay, so far so good. Summer comes, we're back in our cities because it's summer break. And me and my friend Christine, we hear about a midnight cruise on Lake Michigan in Chicago. And we're thinking to ourselves, oh yeah, that gotta be nice. It's gonna be a party. We get on this boat, Barack, and it's for couples. Who's on there? Him. I wanted to dive off the boat. I wanted to get off of there so bad. I was so embarrassed, and he saw me hiding the whole time. And he had the nerve to try to talk to me. Oh no, I'm not interested. Not anymore. I mean, I don't know what it was about, but pheromones.
So hold on, he was on the boat with somebody else?
Yeah, he was on the boat with
Oh wow.
a woman, and I never had got a response from him with the
Yeah,
letter.
that's a funny situation right there.
And listen, I couldn't
It
swim.
was called your pants was on fire. You thought your hot pants was on fire when you first saw him.
Well, let me tell you, I came to learn more about him after the fact. Here's the thing. I couldn't swim at the time. So it was amazing that I got through that cruise, and it was for lovers, and me and my friend, we're just on there thinking it's going to be a party. And baby, I was so embarrassed. But as time went on, what I did learn about him is that he is highly an intellect. I have always been attracted to, I guess, geeks. I've always worn lipstick and high heels, and people didn't deem me a geek. But underneath it all, that's really who I am. But I came to learn that that's who he was. So, but again, it must have been some kind of pheromone that went on because he was not so much handsome. But anyway, based on the subject matter we're talking about, that's why I'm bringing him up. But when he got around to trying to date me, I said, oh no, thank you. Because I had already went out of character. I do not believe in letting a man know I'm attractive. I did that. Then I got slapped in the face on a boat in the middle of the water.
Right.
I was hardly interested in that man. So the bottom line is, I ask you, have you ever felt this immediate attraction? And what do you think caused the reaction? For me, it must have been this thing. Because, like I said, to the eye, he was not so handsome. He was not very tall either. And to be like lagging in the number to come through the door, I don't know. But anyway, so we're going to move along. Okay. So, Barack, what's your thoughts about this study that I spoke about? That the straight man, just by the must of women, was attracted to that, and the must that was in men in gaming clothing or however they presented it, the gay man was attracted to the must of their own kind. What say you? What's your thoughts around this study?
So I find the study to be very, very interesting. Um, I know for sure that your human body, yeah, well, different bodies, you know what I'm saying, give off this unique scent that's like a it's like a fingerprint to the person. And I had my best friend. I never forget that he had this girl that was so in love with him, and he didn't feel the same way about her, but he had dreadlocks, and she was attracted to his natural hair oils, which I thought was so weird. She would smell his hair, and and just be like, it just be mesmerized. But
Wow.
I mean, it explains a lot. Also, I think about like you know different scenarios, and I don't want to go down to a rabbit hole, but like prisoners of war and stuff like that, and how they saying will be around each other and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe smells do. If you just a scent type of person, I could see that. I could see you being attracted to a person like that in that nature. But yeah, it's interesting.
Now, I agree with you that it truly is interesting because, like I said, this person from 40 years ago, I have never sat around and thought to myself, oh, the odor of him, oh, his scent, oh, his cologne. No, 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 no. I have remembered him in other aspects. But to actually see him 40 years later and my nose be triggered, that's how come I know this thing must be real. What say you, Sheila? What's your
Wait,
thoughts about
I
yes,
do want to say
Rock?
one more thing. I'm sorry, Sheila, to cut you off. Uh, I do know for me though, certain scents brings back memories. You know what I'm saying? Like, especially if they were great memories. Because I can smell a particular perfume that will always bring me back into like this girl I used to like really really like, and she would always wear this perfume, and like every time I smell it on people, it just remind me of her.
But now I like what you said because this is where I think the difference is. This perfume, the fragrance always put you in the mind of her when you smell it on people. So
Yeah,
you got this foreknowledge that this particular smell I remember and I remember who it smelled on, right?
right.
And I agree with you because every time I smell the trees called dogwood, it makes me think about a street I lived on as a little girl. Why? Because the street was lined with those trees. But I got a
Mhm.
foreknowledge of that smell to that location, right?
Right.
The man that I'm speaking about 40 years ago, I never once entertained his smell. You know what I mean? If it was his cologne, I could say, oh, that reminds me of JoJo. But no, no, no. I'm amazed that my nose knew something that my mind had not entertained. You know what I mean? So,
Yes, definitely.
yeah, so that's what I'm saying. I think it's this pheromone thing. All right, Sheila, what say you about that study that single men, I mean,
Oh,
straight men were able to recognize the musk of a woman and the gay guys could recognize the musk of their own?
okay. I don't know anything about the study,
Yeah.
but I don't know if you remember me telling you. Oh, I hear an echo. I don't know if you remember me telling you that about the pheromones and the young lady was selling these items at work. We're older now. We're out of our 20s and stuff, but she was selling these items at around the job. And so I bought the spray because she was telling me it's a really good spray and it'll enhance your love life and all this. So I go and buy this stuff and I spray it. And the guy that I was seeing at the time, when he came over, we immediately got into an argument. I'm like, what tripped him out? So, that went on. So the next time he came, I had sprayed it again. Same thing. Automatic. Once he hugged me, automatic got into it. So I went back and told the girl, "What is this mess? Every time I use it, he and I get into an argument. If I don't use it, everything's fine." So she said, "Well, maybe it's not mixing well with your body. Here, take the powder, right?"
Uh-huh.
So I do the powder, and the same thing. So I said, "Well, maybe it's just him." So anyway, long story short, we quit dating, and I'm dating somebody else. Before seeing somebody. And when I use the same thing, I said, "Here, take this mess. This does not work with me." And she says, "Sheila, maybe your body is not to be using artificial scent." So I said, "Okay, that could be right." I've never used it again, never had any problems. There's some colognes that I like that smell very good on me, but when other people get near me, they say it stinks. There's a cologne called Cool Water. They made it for men at first, and I would wear that, and everybody loved it on me. They made another one for women, and when I put that on, everybody says it stinks. So I think we all have some chemical in our own bodies, that sets off an attraction to to other people. Now, let me jump real quick on this. As my husband, I married a man from Africa, and they say they don't wear deodorant and all like that, right? Well,
Yeah.
his natural scent, I love it. I can lay around and under him all day just smelling him, okay? But if he's gone out to work and he's had a must be, I can't stand that. But his natural musk, it's a turn on to me. So I don't know anything about studies, but I do know there's a chemical in all of us. Sometimes it matches with people, and sometimes it can offend somebody.
Yeah. Well, I do remember you telling me about the perfume spray, right? Um, but even when you told me, I don't know if you remember my response to it, but I'll share it here. I was kind of leery of the ideal about a spray that helped enhance what we're supposed to naturally have, right? I was only, suspect of it because of what a man told me one time. And it had bothered him so that he was so relieved to tell it to me. But here's what he said. He was a quiet man, right? People didn't think he talked that much. But one day he and I was talking, and he was telling me one time he was interested in a woman. And he was telling his mother about the woman wouldn't give him time of day, that he must not be just her cup of tea at all. He said, and his mother came back with a little vial, okay, and told him, if you get the opportunity, spill this on her. He said, well, Cheryl, I don't know my mother into no voodoo or anything. So the bottom line is I did what my mother says out of curiosity. He says, Cheryl, the woman got so into me, it was frightening. He said, I could not go further because the change was so immediately and so dramatic, so drastic. So when you told me the story about that spray, it made me think about the quiet man that opened up to me, right? So he didn't understand it. It had happened some years ago in his life. So in the research, they did talk about perfumes that people can buy to enhance it. But listen, I don't want no help. And it look like mine maybe have dried up. I don't know. Because I am not attracting anybody. Well, she tells me all the time, Sheila, you got to come out the house to attract anybody, Cheryl. But at the end of the day, pheromones, we believe that it's a real thing. All right, let me ask these other two things and then we're out of here, guys, because it's a very short conversation. It is um, to the, it's a quick conversation. It is really just cut and dry. So it's sending signals, right? I think it's a thing. I think that it really does exist, even though that study said that the jury was still out. So let me ask you this, the science behind it. Do you think it's a God thing? Or do you think it's your DNA, your makeup of your parents? Barack said it's like a person's fingerprint. Well, we know fingerprints is not a biology thing. We know we don't get it from our parents, right? That's a God thing, right? Me and Sheila could be standing side by side, making the same recipe, the same measures. I mean, the three of us, all right? Barack, Sheila, and myself, the three of us could be making the same meal with the same ingredients, the same amounts, and it's going to turn out different. That's a God thing. My question, do you think this is a God thing or do you think this is biology? Barack, open your mic and tell me what
Uh,
you
so with that being said, and how you explained things just now, going into it, I'm gonna automatically say I think it's a God thing.
think. Yeah. Huh. Yeah. I'm in agreement with you. It got to be a God thing instead of it
Yeah.
just being a combination of our parents. What say you, Sheila?
I'm gonna say it's a combination of both.
Okay,
You
and
know,
expound.
he
Yeah.
can give you, yeah, he can give you a sense of something, but you know, you actually have to see if that chemistry is going to balance out with the other person. So I just think it's a balance of both.
Okay, well, you and Barack know better than anybody else. We're not going to dispute what your thought process is because it could be absolutely correct. Okay, so the bottom line, when we talk about pheromones, we talked about the definition of it because we had to have a working definition. We talked about how it works and we talked about its effects. So let me ask you all this. I use the example as to in all my dating, I never heard it said before, but I get married and he tells me, listen, we have the same scent. He did not use this word, but he says, Cheryl, you smell like me. So that's pretty interesting in itself. But now, is there a difference between that and when you can hear, and we're all of age here, all right, we're talking about after dark. We have heard men who speak about women not having a good smell in the midst of love making. Is this one and the same or is this different? Because I had said the pheromones they say is underneath the skin, right? So if that's the hidden language that sends signals to one individual to the other, is it just a matter of keeping clean versus this natural smell we're talking about? going back up to you, Barack.
No, can
Oh,
I answer that?
yeah, yeah. I was going to say Sheila, open her mic. Yes, Sheila, go right ahead.
Okay, so that's a two-part thing also. One, it could be her hygiene is not well kept, okay? But if her hygiene is well kept and their chemical does not balance out, that is a hormone issue.
Okay.
They're not a good mix. They might be a good mix in talking and hanging out and all that, right? But the intimate side of it is not a good mix, and it's going to bring out something that he smells about her that he does not like. Does not necessarily mean this is her normal smell.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a combination of both for some people. Okay,
Well,
doesn't necessarily mean she smells like that all the time.
Well, I like what you're saying because that's why this study says that the jury was still out because human sexual behavior is complex. And so that's why I put the question on the table. Like you said, it could be a matter of hygiene, but if it's not hygiene, then since you said it's a combination of that pheromones is a God thing, uh, aligned with what our parents give us, our DNA, it may be that thing that's her natural, and then also what the man brings to the table. But it is to be looked at, and so that's why we're looking at it. Barack, what say you?
Yeah, so I like being like you got to be chemically compatible. You can become chemically imbalanced, and things can change. But I do believe as well that if you be with a person for a long time, like let's just say husband and wife, they
Yeah,
be together for a long time, you can share each other essence, what I'm saying? Like really when they say y'all become one, that's like really
yeah,
thing. Because you can really smell like a person, you can
hmm,
look like them, you can start acting like them,
yeah.
and everything. Yeah. So yeah, that's my take.
Well, let me tell you, I like your take, and it opens the door to the other thing, right? Being a soul tie to someone, right? That's a dangerous thing, but a lot of times, all these characteristics that you just pointed out, it happens in people because they have had this soul tie, which comes in, sexually. So yeah, it's brilliant that you brought us to that point because it introduces it to it. All right. Here's another thing they said about the pheromones. What can happen too in the case of it? They said, have you ever noticed that women that spend a lot of time together, they start to have their menstrual at the same time? Hello. That's true too. Not in so much women that I, was friends with or my sister or somebody like that, but I have noticed this on jobs, different jobs, you be on and you end up, you talking, to the female staff around about you and everybody's on the same schedule. Sheila, have you ever noticed that?
No, I've never heard of that, and I don't think we've even talked about it, but I've never heard of it.
Oh, yeah. Well, believe me, I have noticed that down through my years, right? When I used to be a woman who had that issue. Okay. So the bottom line is this pheromone thing is something that I think we can say that it is real. But I do not want a perfume. I do not want any help with mine. I want it to be natural. What say you guys about when they say how to learn your natural one? But before you answer that, let me say this because I just thought about something Sheila said. When we speak to, it could be these other factors, a person, a woman's hygiene, her DNA mixture, her mix with the other guy or whatever. Here's another thing. as we got older too, we learned more into when they say when your pH balance is off. So, really, it is complicated that people may say, I don't know what to believe. I don't know where it begins and where it ends. So, like I said, I was ignorant to the actual word until a few years back. And so the research I did now, I found it interesting. I'm glad that Barack is with me, that, he is not a topic that he really have dived into, and Sheila's experience crystallizes the conversation we're having. Before we go to closing, let me just ask you guys, what are your thoughts in regards to what did I just ask you? I don't forgot. It's something I asked you to.
About the pH balance.
No, I threw that in before I was about to give you the last thing. Can anybody remember? Oh my goodness. I threw that in before I said address this and then we're going to call it a day. Okay.
Yeah, you didn't even get a chance to even state the question. You was going into it.
I rant. Yeah. So at the end of the day, and of course, when we get off of here, it will have come back to me. But sexual sense of attraction, that's what pheromone is. Sexual sense of attraction. And we have to ask ourselves, is it real? And me and my two buddies here today, we said that it's real. Two of us strictly said it got to be a God thing. One of us said it's our DNA along with it being a God thing. So we receive that. We accept that. So Adam, he told Eve, you are bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh, and yet we don't ever know if they knew what it meant, the science behind pheromones. Anybody want to say anything, add to this before we say goodbye? Because I sure can't remember what I was going to say to you.
Well, let me say this. As far back as Adam and Eve, and as far back as our great great grandparents, they knew nothing about these scientific matters, so those things would have never been spoke on, and they wouldn't have recognized it. And some of our forefathers, and they were put together. They didn't come together themselves as one. A lot of times they were put together, so they had to learn, you know, um, how to love. There was never no time for them to have a love at first sight or anything like that. So these things are just, coming into play now for the newbies. You get what I'm saying? So, science, yeah, you can believe in them and everything, but it's always an individual to individual to find out what turns you on or what excites you about the next person. You know, I always used to ask one of my boyfriends, how come they don't treat me, your friends or the guys don't treat me like they do the rest of the girls, you know? And he would say, because even at a young age, a man or a guy can recognize when they see a real woman. Well, what did I have on me that let them know I was that real? But it was something, and they saw it, but they never treated me like the other girls, even though I kind of wanted to be, joked at or something, but
Yeah,
they didn't do it. There was a respect on me that they just didn't carry with a lot of the other younger girls.
yeah, I understand that and have witnessed that. So I agree. Let me add to what you said. I do believe that the generations before us knew into this but did not know these words. They were not educated. They did not have language that was sophisticated enough to be able to tell you the terms that are used today. But people of old, they knew a whole lot of stuff, but they could not tell it to you. Let's use, for example, you and I talk about this all the time when my folks used to say, hey, listen, when the left hand itch, not good news. If the left eye jump, something is going on. Listen, I tried to dismiss this conversation. I said, this is old black folkism. I didn't believe it, right? And they would say the right hand, if it itch, you gonna get money. This is my mother's bloodline who would speak these things. Well, listen, I grew up and I had to respect it because it's true for me, for my mother's bloodline. It is just the way they work it. I have always thought to myself, hey, listen, I want to ask some non-black people, do these signals work in you all's bloodline? Or was it God giving a people that had no education? Most of them could not read, so he had to give these kinds of signals for them. So no, our ancestors, they were not sharp enough to speak these terms, but they knew way into things that we couldn't hardly give them credit for. But I love old people because you can really learn a lot from them, but it's all termed differently. So thank you,
And,
Sheila. Yes, you're going to say something?
and just as you just said, remember we have this conversation a lot too. It's your right side to give you all the good stuff, right?
Yeah,
It's
not,
my
not
left hand.
well,
It's my left hand that gives me all the good stuff. It's my left eye. If it jumps, I'm gonna be okay. But if that right eye jumps, everybody get away from me because somebody's about to make me mad. And if my right hand is, something's about to be taken away. So yeah, I try to run away from that too, but it is what it is. But for my family, my mom, sister, brother, they're right-handed, and so opposite of me. When they're right hand, it's goodness, money, whatever. Everything for me is on my left. Everything for them is on their right.
Well, every time you have shared that with me, it makes me wonder, is it the person's dominant hand that these things are real in their individual life? But for my family, the bloodline of my mother's side, it had nothing to do with if you're left-handed or right-handed. That's the way they told you to pay attention. And it's true for my mother's bloodline, and I'm a witness. So I only made mention of that because, again, our ancestors, they could not speak eloquently. They did not have education, but it's just about nothing on the planet that they would not have some kind of experience. They don't know nothing about this internet mess. Okay. They don't know nothing about the internet. Okay. But the bottom line is, that barnyard wisdom they had, that porch, deepness. Yeah, they had that. Barack, add to this before we say goodbye.
I just want to say that take it from this whole thing that smells are very, very powerful.
Mm-hmm.
We all agree on
Yeah.
there's no such thing as love at first sight. So if
Right.
you find an urge that you think you love somebody and you got rejected and you still going after that person, then it might be voodoo. Be
Yeah.
careful out there.
Oh, brother, I'm so glad you said that. That's something I was meaning.
That's called lust.
Well, there's lust and there's voodoo. But I'm so glad you said that, Barack, because that's something that I missed to say today on the earlier podcast. When I said the takeaways, right? When I said the takeaways that a lot of people pick only with their eyes and that's it, right? But I wanted to say too, beware of ungodly coupling, right? Every couple you see, it is not a natural coupling, right? So that subject matter we were talking about today, these things are real. So I'm glad you said that because I wanted to throw that in there. I really did. So in closing today for the Thinking Woman's Mitch podcast, we ended our 3-part series After Dark is what it was called. And we were talking about that makes a hormonal change today. It's called pheromones. So you heard what my brother just said, what we agreed on and what we may not have really seen eye to eye. But we hope that we have brought information to you that was informative. I hope you enjoyed the comments of my listening guests today. You know, sometimes it's not about the numbers. It's the quality of the conversation that you're having with the people. And the two people that joined me today, hey, listen, they do that for me all the time. So I hope you